This is Morning Motivation for Educators on the Bee Podcast Network. Learn about all the shows at beepodcastnetwork.com. You'll hear from a variety of formal and informal educators who help put this podcast together. If you'd like to contribute your voice to the show, please go to morningmotivationedu.com to apply. I am Karen Dudek-Brannan. I was a school SLP for 14 years where I specialized in language literacy and executive functioning and also held various teaching, leadership, and research roles. Now, I am the host of the De facto Leaders podcast on the Bee Podcast Network, where I help school therapists, teachers, and administrators be leaders on their school teams, no matter their job title. Today, I wanted to talk about PowerPoint. So we've all sat in a ton of professional development presentations and seen PowerPoint presentations that have entire paragraphs on them. And it's just gotten to be that is the accepted way to use this tool. And I think this is really relevant for anyone working in education because there is a lot of improvement to be made in the way that we handle professional learning and how we develop people who are supporting kids, whether it be the leaders in the school systems or whether it be the people who are working directly with kids. And I think that regardless of whatever role you're in, you may have had an opportunity to do a training or share your knowledge with staff, whether it be live or whether it be asynchronous. And maybe you've recorded a video presentation that includes some kind of a slide deck. So this is something that I have started to learn as I have transitioned out of solely doing traditional professional development. I have an academic background, so I have a doctorate in special ed. I thought I was going to be primarily working in higher ed and doing traditional professional development like seminars and trainings for school districts and things like that, which of course that is part of what I do, but I've also transitioned to the marketing side of things, running a business and figuring out how to put a compelling sales pitch together to sell a professional development training program to people working in education. And so I've really had to be mindful of how I keep people engaged and moving on to the next step whenever I am providing a presentation. And of course, if you're involved in marketing, if you're involved in the online space, you may be familiar with Seth Godin, who is a big name in the marketing world. And when I first started to create marketing presentations and some of my slide decks, I came across some of his information on PowerPoint presentations and how a lot of us are misusing this tool and really not using it in the way that it was intended. Again, when you go to traditional seminars, you see entire paragraphs on the slides. There's tons of data and statistics. Half the time, you can't even read everything on the slide. So I have adopted some of Seth Godin's rules when it comes to using PowerPoint and related tools. The first one is that he says no more than 6 words on a slide. Now, I don't quite always follow this rule, but I have significantly decreased the number of words that I put on each slide, and I stick to the high points. If my slides start to look too busy, then I consider breaking them up into multiple slides. I am certainly not perfect. I certainly use more than 6 words in many of my presentations, but when you compare what I do to a lot of other professional development, I am using a lot fewer words. And how I use that presentation is that I use it as talking points, and then I have stories prepared so that I can elaborate. PowerPoint is supposed to be a visual aid that helps guide you through the presentation and add emphasis to your points. It's not meant to be something that you read word for word. We want to make sure that we use PowerPoint as a way to keep people engaged and guide us through the presentation, but we want to make sure we have engaging stories and activities that are throughout the presentation. The PowerPoint isn't the training itself. You are the person that's adding that flair to the training. The PowerPoint is just the tool to guide you through it. I continue to strive to stick to the high points, stick to the compelling quote and the key takeaway of the story that I'm presenting rather than giving the entire thing. I'm always working on this, but it's something that I am constantly thinking about when I'm presenting information. The other thing that he recommends is not giving your PowerPoint to your attendees. Now, I don't always follow this rule, I will admit, but it's something that I have worked on and really given a lot of thought. When I'm creating a marketing asset for my business and I have a presentation that is designed to educate in a way that is going to lead someone to make a purchasing decision. And a lot of my marketing assets that are webinars and presentations, there's a fine line between professional development and marketing for me, because a lot of my presentations do discuss a lot of educational research, because that's part of what people would need to know in a marketing asset in order to decide if this is a good decision for the students that they're working with. In those contexts, I do not give out my PowerPoint slides because, again, they are not going to get the entire context if they just get the presentation. A lot of times people will ask for the presentation because they won't want to sit through the entire training, but I know that they're not going to get the information that they need. And from an ethical standpoint, I have a service that I know helps people, and so I'm not going to give them my PowerPoint because I want them to listen to that presentation because I know it's in their best interest, and it's also in my best interest as someone who wants to make sure that I get this information out into the world and that I'm able to continue to run my business. Now, what you can do, you can give follow-up documents. So maybe if you want to give additional context and graphs and charts or link to additional resources, here's what you can give people so that they can stay engaged after the presentation. So if you have something that's a little more detailed that you want to share, maybe that can be what you provide in your handout rather than just giving them your slides. A lot of people think that if they get the copy of your slide deck, they're going to be able to remember what you said, but really that's not the case. You are the person who is delivering the training. You are the one that is the valuable asset here. The PowerPoint is just the tool. And if we use that as the primary form of professional development, then we are really selling ourselves short, and we're likely not truly communicating in a way that's effective. And I believe that a lot of these marketing principles can be extremely useful in education because all we're talking about here is behavioral change. When you deliver professional development and you're sharing information with other people, you want them to change something that they're doing. You want to lead them in making a decision that's going to be in their best interest and their students' best interest. So that's why it's really important to communicate in a way that's clear and compelling. And tools like PowerPoint can help us do that, but only if we use them the right way. Thanks for listening, and whatever role you have in education, we have a podcast for you at bpodcastnetwork.com. Who among your friends and colleagues needs to hear this message today? Please share it with them right now.